If you want to be a real animator, you don't get around dealing with animation targets. Those targets usually measure how many seconds of animation you can get done per week. Today we will take a look at how this number is influenced by many production factors like the style, technology, or technique of your animation. We'll also have a look at why estimating accurate animation targets might be one of your most valuable abilities, besides being a good animator, obviously. It doesn't matter if you are a freelancer or work in a studio, if you take animation seriously, you need to know all about this. Animation targets are not unlike other production targets. It's always a certain amount of work getting done over a certain span of time. Why is it important to know? Well, most productions have deadlines. Deadlines! It's obvious in the business world. Customers want to have their product delivered as fast as possible, and studios cannot afford to pay their workers forever. They need results, final animation that will bring in the money, and they need numbers to work with to estimate when this final result will be reached. Being able to estimate your workload correctly will make you very popular in the industry world. Studios, producers, film funds, supervisors, and co-workers, they all love animators who can say that they need X amount of days to complete this work. And then, and this is the big catch, really only need those X amount of days to complete it. By creating a schedule and then sticking to it, you don't create delays that cost money, you don't leave your co-workers hanging because they're waiting for you to finish or start a shot. If you don't stick to your animation target, this company might not hire you again. Even personal projects benefit from this more economical way of thinking. No matter how passionate you are about a project, eventually you really want to be done with it. It can be hell if you are stuck in a so-called passion project and you have no idea where you are on the timeline. You don't know if you're getting enough done or if you're even working on the right things. Especially on big projects, you need reasonable daily and weekly goals, because that goal of a finished game or film is just too difficult to grasp all at once. Also, it's an incredible feeling if you nailed your estimate, if you made your animation target. See it as a bit of a personal challenge, created and defeated. But how can you calculate an animation target? Well, I present to you 5 factors to keep in mind to make your estimates more accurate. Number 1. What is your task? This one is actually often overlooked, but you need to know exactly what's expected from you. There are some 2D productions where the animators are just doing rough scribbles of the key poses and then hand it off to in-betweeners and assistants. In other productions, they are expected to do everything, clean up, coloring, and all the stuff that follows after the actual animation. In some 3D productions, the animators are expected to set up the rendering. How do you even do that? So you need to know exactly what your tasks are in this production. Every subtask will need a little bit more time. Number 2. What is the animation style and technology? If you animate something Pixar or Disney style, you obviously will only get a couple of seconds done per week. Whereas in TV productions, with a strong pose-to-pose approach, with presets and libraries and maybe 2D rigs, they expect animation targets around 20 to 30, maybe even 40 seconds per week. In general, 2D tends to show results earlier than 3D and needs a little bit of less time, but yeah, that's a case-by-case thing. This also is the slider to adjust your own project before you start it. If you calculate the animation target for something that you want to animate and you realize it would take you decades to finish, then you could maybe use a simpler animation style or use rigs and libraries to cut down the effort that you need to do for every shot. Of course, it's nicer to do some really tough animation and try to reach this Pixar and Disney level, but keep in mind that you will only get a couple of seconds done in this animation style. Also, some projects don't need that detail level. Think about South Park or Llamas with Hats, where the crude animation style actually benefits the story. Number 3. How difficult is the shot? It's not enough to calculate your animation target just from the overall style of the production, because every story calls for some shots that are easier or harder to do than the normal case. So better estimate the time needed for every shot and asset each individually. This obviously only makes sense if you already have a more structured animatic. Number 4. What is your own experience level and your own way of working? While it's good to compare animation targets from other people and other productions, your personal situation is also a super important factor when estimating an animation target. You are faster with familiar software and work assignments and slower with challenges that you tackle for the first time. And that is nothing to be afraid or ashamed of. The important thing is that you need to say it. If you say to your producer, hey, I've never done that before, I might need an extra day, that's usually okay. But it's bad if you claim that you are faster than you actually are. So use your own experiences and what you know about yourself for your estimates. There's a bit of a circle here. In order to do that accurately, you most of the time need to have done something similar, or at least be really good at estimating how long you need to adapt. This is why one of my professors recommended to track your time for everything you do. So if you have to do something similar in the future, you can refer to those numbers. Number 5. How much time do you spend on other things besides animation? This is another factor that people tend to forget. You don't spend the entire day animating. There are meetings, weeklies, important emails that you have to write, and of course, lunch and coffee breaks. And if you are a freelancer, you probably have to do your own bookkeeping, customer acquisition, maybe you have multiple projects to work on at the same time. So never expect an 8-hour workday to be 8 hours of animating, or it will quickly turn into a 10-hour workday, plus weekend if you aren't careful. So those are the basics for animation targets and why you should add them to your personal workflow from now on. Do you already use animation targets? Yes, no, maybe? Let us know your experiences and maybe some tips and tricks how you estimate your animation targets in the comments below. Never forget to schedule in some time for resting your eyes, some fresh air, maybe some awesome real-life conversations and adventures to inspire you. I'm Ferdinand Englander for Animator Island. Take care and goodbye.